Here's how it started. DeLuca's on a Tuesday, garlic and butter in the air, my feet throbbing after a 12-hour ER shift, a phone buzzing like a hornet nest beside a man in a crisp suit who looked like he might pass out. He leaned in without really moving his lips and whispered, "Please pretend I'm your girlfriend for 5 minutes." I glanced past his shoulder, saw 2 charcoal jackets sweeping the room with those cold searchlight eyes, and I did what my gut always does when someone is drowning in plain sight. I patted the chair and said, "Sit." He sat, took my hand, like we'd practiced. It tried to breathe. The jackets drifted over, and the woman gave me a smile with no warmth in it. "Mr. Hale, we need to talk," she said. Evan's grip tightened. His voice stayed steady. "I'm having dinner with my girlfriend. Call my office in the morning." And I heard myself cut in before fear could catch up. "We're on a date. Please respect our privacy if it's business." "There's a calendar for that," the woman clocked our hands. The way I didn't blink, then nodded, and backed off, door closed. The tremor in his fingers eased, and he looked at me like someone who'd been handed oxygen. He told me the truth in pieces. His name was Evan. His mother ran Hale Dynamics. She wanted him engaged to Sloane Kerrigan because a ring would stitch 2 companies into one cleaner balance sheet. He'd said no, they'd sent pressure with good tailoring. And yeah, it sounded wild, but you know what I mean. Money has a way of making terrible ideas sound inevitable. "Would you help me a little longer?" he asked. "Just for a few weeks, family dinners, a gala or 2. Pretend to be my girlfriend, so they stop pushing." I told him I didn't take money for being decent. But if we did this, I got the real person. No PR mask honesty and private boundaries in public. No questions asked if either of us needed to walk away. He nodded, like I'd read the protocol on the wall of his mind. "Deal," he breathed. "Coffee tomorrow." And that's how my quiet life bumped into a different kind of emergency. The next day, in a crowded cafe, he traded the armor for rolled sleeves and a thin wrist scar. He said he loved the work, code product building things people actually use, and hated the theater of boardrooms. He said his mother was brilliant and afraid. At the same time, afraid he'd choose love over leverage. Afraid the name wouldn't carry if the merger didn't happen. And I told him about being 12 in a bright ER with a mother who couldn't stop coughing, about a nurse named Carol who sat at my eye level and made the fear smaller using plain words. I told him that's why I do what I do, to be someone's Carol. When the room tilts, we shook on it. Honesty, no pressure. A sunset clause. He tried to pay for my coffee and I let him, because gratitude can be its own medicine. Sunday night, he drove us up a road that makes the ocean look like a private mirror. The Hale place was all white stucco and tight gardens. Inside, we met Eunice, the housekeeper, who called him sweetheart, which told me more about Evan than any article could. And then Margot Hale, silver hair, like a blade handshake, like a contract eyes that tested for weakness. "You're a nurse," she said. "Not unkind, just measuring." "Emergency department," I answered. "Strong stomach," then she said. "Strong heart helps," I said back. A flicker of something softened. Dinner could have been an interrogation. But I've been in worse rooms. I told her about Harbor City, my mom doing hair by day and cleaning offices by night, about finishing school during graveyards, about how people teach you who they are when they're scared. And when she asked how we met, I told her the truth with the serial numbers filed down. DeLuca's an overcooked chicken parm, a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. A choice to be human in a public place. Evan watched me like he wanted his mother to see what he saw. Margot watched me like she just might let go of a little control if she believed her son would be all right. A few days later, he came to City General with coffee for my floor and a bakery box like he thought sugar could buy back sleep. Kiana from my team asked him questions like a bouncer. He took everyone, then I showed him the patient garden, because that space is the proof that hospitals can offer more than alarms, he asked. Why I stay in a job that breaks your heart on a schedule. I told him it's the only work where I know I'm necessary, not just useful, necessary. He nodded at a kid chasing a butterfly and said he hadn't felt necessary in a long time. Then came the gala. Chandelier's black tux, midnight dress that made me stand taller. We shook hands, made small talk. And here comes Sloane, beautiful, in a way that looks expensive, smile like a courtroom. And you must be Lena. How interesting, she said, making nurse sound like mistake. I reached for humor because heat turns to ash too fast. Nice to meet you too, I said. I've heard about your family's contributions to supply chains and temper tantrums. Her blink told me she wasn't used to being met at eye level. We'll see who's still here when the dust settles, she said, then floated away. During the auction, they put up a mobile pediatric clinic, 6 months rural roots. Kids getting care in grocery store parking lots. And I forgot myself for a second, picturing tiny arms in blood pressure cuffs. Evan saw it on my face and raised his paddle. The numbers climbed, my throat closed. Why, I whispered when the gavel hit, because you'll do more good with it than most people talk about in rooms like this, he said. And later under string lights, I kissed his cheek, and something slipped from pretend to almost real. Then the twist hit. Monday morning, 3 major clients bailed on Hale Dynamics after a leak exposed next-gen plans. Anonymous Surgical Ugly, that same day, hospital admin pulled me in and said there were complaints, anonymous again, that my personal life was distracting from patient care. I laughed because if you don't laugh, you start swinging. So a nurse gets sidelined because rich people with hurt feelings learn to type, I said, Doctor. Baxter stared at the floor and handed me a suspension. That night Evan came over with shoulders that had carried too much and said Sloane called his mother to offer a fix if he'd put a ring on it. I told him I'd understand. If he chose his company, he put his hands on my face and said he'd rather watch it burn than build a life on blackmail. We decided to fight. We called people from the gala who said they believed in innovation when the canapes were passing. A few actually meant it. And then the strangest thing. Morrison Logistics. Their biggest client asked for a call because someone had sent proof that Kerrigan Holdings orchestrated the leak emails. Wire confirms even a voice memo with Sloane saying, "Pressure creates diamonds, and desperation creates deals." We looked at each other like, who could do this? Who had access and motive? Her brother Evan said, Miles, the black sheep, she's been sidelining. We met him at the Pine Cone Diner where the sugar caddy is cracked, and the coffee tastes like childhood. He slid a manila envelope across and said he was done watching his sister hurt people because she could. Inside was a map to the truth. Spreadsheets, threads, a screen recording of the anonymous complaint playbook aimed at my hospital. Take it to the DA. I'll testify, he said. The deputy DA and her team took one look and moved at the speed that happens when the dots are thick. Black lines, warrants, headlines, handcuffs, and yeah, I felt relief. And also a little sick because it's one thing to hate someone's choices and another to watch a life crack in public. The ripple hit fast. Clients returned, investors stopped ghosting. The hospital called me in to apologize and offered me charge nurse because apparently standing upright under pressure is a leadership skill at the Hale House. The tone shifted. Margot looked at both of us and said, "Control looks like love when you're scared that she'd been scared for a long time." And she was sorry. Later in the garden, Evan took my hands without any audience and told me he wanted a life built on work that mattered and love that told the truth. Then he knelt like the movies, but spoke like a grown man, simple, no performance, and I said yes, with a laugh that turned into a sob. Yeah, that happened. Here's the part I can't tie with a neat bow. Sloane took a plea she'll do time, but not as much as Twitter wanted. Margot stepped back earlier than anyone expected because she finally believed in Evan's version of leadership, and Miles, well, he broke rules to expose bigger crimes. Some people call that betrayal, some call it whistleblowing. When I look at him, I see a man who decided his last name mattered less than the person he has to live with in the mirror every morning. And as for me, I still start my shifts with the same checklist. I still hold hands in rooms where fear lives. I just go home to someone who breathes with me when the world gets too loud, and a blue pediatric clinic with kids' handprints is out there on county roads, because on one loud night in a ballroom, a stubborn man raised a paddle for the right reason. So tell me where you land. Did we do the right thing? Letting a scandal become a reform plan? Should a hospital bench a nurse on anonymous complaints? If donors whisper in the boardroom, should a CEO be allowed to arrange a marriage that doubles as a merger and call it love? And if you were me at DeLuca's, a stranger's hand, shaking in yours, would you have said yes? Drop your take in the comments. What was right? What was wrong? Where would you draw the line? And if you've lived something like this, tell us how you fought back, because somebody out there needs the map you made when you chose brave over easy.